This week, we got a stark reminder of the audacity and bullish attitude that still rules Wall Street. AIG, remember that name? The troubled insurance giant that was given a $182 billion taxpayer bailout to stay afloat. This week, AIG considered joining a shareholder lawsuit against taxpayers, challenging the terms of the bailout, which saved the company and possibly planet Earth from financial meltdown. I know what you're thinking. How could they? Well, outrage followed, and AIG said they wouldn't join the lawsuit after all. But the company is holding off on giving us the reason why. And to be fair, AIG has publicly thanked you for your help.
We've repaid every dollar America lent us.
Everything, plus a profit of more than $22 billion.
For the American people.
Thank you, America.
Helping people recover and rebuild. That's what we do. Now, let's bring on tomorrow.
Government did turn a $22 billion profit on the deal, and I know AIG has a responsibility to its shareholders, employees, and customers to be successful. But what does this episode say about the state of Wall Street in Washington right now? Matt Taibbi joins me now in the studio. Matt is a masterful writer with Rolling Stone. His latest is called Secrets and Lies of the Bailout. I've always said I like Matt a lot. I think he's a little bit crazy, but he is masterful at putting this argument forward. All right, Matt, you start with AIG. You mentioned that the bailout funds were used in some cases for retention bonuses. This latest chapter certainly doesn't help AIG's reputation. No. You really say that the government failed in changing the way Wall Street thinks.
No, I think what the real lesson, my assignment was to look at the bailout. What did it accomplish? Was it effective? Was it not? And what I think we really focused on in the end was they told so many lies on behalf of these companies over the years in the interest of instilling confidence in the markets, that in the end they ended up vouching for a system that was bankrupt or was insolvent, and we're stuck vouching for that system now. And I think that's really the problem. Where does that end? When you start lying for a company, you end up having to keep doing it over and over again, and you have to publicly endorse the health of these companies, and that's the ongoing legacy of these bailouts.
And you say, where does it end is an interesting theme of your story. In fact, I want to read a line from it. It's right on the first page. You wouldn't even have to get far into it. It said, we thought we were just letting a friend crash at the house for a few days. We ended up with a family of hillbillies who moved in forever, sleeping 9 to a bed and building a meth lab on the front lawn. Who are the hillbillies here? Who are sleeping 9 to a bed, and who's got the meth lab?
Well, for instance, look at the HSBC settlement, last month, or the UBS settlement. 4 years ago, could you imagine that we would let banks off for laundering $9 billion for terrorists and Mexican drug cartels? And the rationale they gave was very similar to the rationale they gave for endorsing the solvency of banks that were insolvent. They said we have to do this because these are systemically important companies, and we can't let something happen to them, because if something happens to them, we'll have another disruption.
So what you've drawn out here is interesting. You said that there might have been some hope in the way the bailout was originally structured. Then within days it changed into something else.
Right. And
then within days it changed into something else. So it went from something that was going to help America through its banks into helping homeowners and banks into something that was just about banks.
Just about banks, right. And then it became something that didn't even necessarily help banks. The original rationale is we're going to give a whole bunch of money to healthy, viable banks to help start to grease the economy and start lending all over again and stimulate business activity all over the country. But what it turned into is we're going to fill capital holes for failing institutions, and we're going to get no new lending stimulated, and we're not going to create business, and we're not going to create jobs. And that's sort of the situation that we ended up with.
You look at the last 30-some-odd months where we have actually created jobs, and the stock market, which a lot of our viewers invest in through their 401ks or IRAs, is at a 5-year high.
Sure.
Do you attribute any of that to the bailout?
Absolutely, I do. But the question is going to be, will it continue? I mean, the proof is going to be in the pudding. Is the situation sustainable, or is it not sustainable? I mean, it really comes down to, do you believe that these too big to fail banks are solvent? Do you believe in their accounting? And do you believe that going forward they're going to remain healthy? Or do you believe that there's trouble ahead?
The way I teased that you were coming on is that President Obama really spent a lot of time talking about Tim Geithner, and the applause that he got in the White House was extended. You think Tim Geithner, and so does Neil Barofsky, who's written the book about this. He was the special Inspector General of TARP, the bailout. You both think Geithner's he's more part of the problem than the solution?
Well, I think, I agree with Neil Borowski on a lot of these points. I think that Tim Geithner's legacy is he's going to be remembered as the architect of too big to fail. I think, you know, what he had the opportunity with the bailouts to go in and correct a lot of problems, restore fiscal honesty and transparency in the system, and instead they just sort of papered over the problem. They threw a lot of money at these corrupt, failing institutions, and they created these sort of monsters that now we have to publicly back, even when they're backing laundering money for terrorists and drug dealers.
But when you write an article like this, it gives you strange bedfellows. It puts you into bed with a whole lot of conservatives who say, see, we should never have had that bailout. You believe that there shouldn't have been a bailout at all?
No, I believe there should have been I think it should have been done differently. It should have been done with conditions. It should have been done in a way that encouraged transparency instead of just papering over problems. But I do believe that this is an inherently conservative issue. I think there should be some linkage here between liberals and conservatives because it's not a partisan issue at all.
Well, it's a good read. Matt Taibbi's article called Secrets and Lies of the Bailout. Matt is a contributing editor with Rolling Stone. Coming up, this high-tech jumbo jet was